look back, as soon as we look back, we see Joel walk into this random van, like a random vehicle van, and he just and the van just takes off.
Hi, welcome back to the Headbangers podcast. I'm joined with Nathan. Here today is Chris from Skeletal Remains. One thing I want to ask you straight off the bat is I love you guys' merch. Like, there's so much out there. Like, you've even got stuff like a skateboard. I wanted to ask, is there any like secret Tony Hawks between you? Like, is there a reason why you chose to make a Skeletal Remains skateboard, or was it just like, yeah, we'll just make one? Why not?
I think all of us in the band have been into skateboarding at one point of in our life. I was into skateboarding when I was younger because my brother and my cousins were really into skateboarding. I mean, they were a lot better than I am. I mean, I probably knew how to do basic things, fucking all the kickflip and shit. But being a fan of skateboarding and playing video games like Tony Hawk and shit like that, or just watching old school skate videos, and discovering bands that way, like classic, like Iron Maiden or Slayer and shit like that, So I think all of us in the band are, fans of skateboarding. I wouldn't be able to do any tricks nowadays. It's been a while since I skated, but I'm sure it's the same for the rest of the guys. But yeah, we're just fan. Like all our merch in general, we try to make merch that we would buy personally, that we're a fan of. So like everything, that we make, it's something that, we would wear or we would like if we were supporting a band, buying merch from a band, it was something that, if they made something similar, that's like something we would buy. So we try to like make merch and put it like as a fan point of view, like stuff that we like personally. So yeah, that's kind of everything you see is kind of just stuff that, shit that we're into or whatever. But yeah, we're definitely not. I mean, some of the members in the past lineups are really into skating. They were actually really good into skating. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just something we've always wanted to do. Like the skateboard is something we've been wanting to do for a while, but we just didn't know how to get it done. And we finally, found a good source to make it happen.
Yeah, it's crazy that overlap though, like between metal and skateboarding. Like it feels like it's almost like being tied to each other, like for such a long time. Like, because I remember like being like playing the original Tony Hawk, and some of the like stuff that I actually still listen to is based off of that game. Like, I find it absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the same way. I mean, most of the stuff that like I said, I think skating introduced a lot of people into. Sorry, I hope it's not too loud. It's a truck backing in.
It's cool, man.
Yeah, I feel for a lot of people, skating kind of introduced, heavy music in general to a lot of people. I mean, it was like that for me, growing up playing like the first Tony Hawk or the second Tony Hawk. Most of those or both of those games had a really killer soundtrack, So mm-hmm. A lot of the stuff that I've discovered on those games, it's like you said, it's stuff that I still listen to this day, like Dead Kennedys or whatever stuff was on there. That's kind of what I feel turned a lot of people into heavy music in general. But yeah, I agree. I think they've kind of been tied to each other. Even just watching skate videos, a lot of these skaters would be skating to like Iron Maiden or Metallica or Slayer. So I think that I think it just has to do with, skaters also being a fan of good music.
Yeah,
I think because also you get the same as well with wrestling fans, because, I've got some friends that are into wrestling and they also say, I remember, getting into metal from the intros that some of the wrestlers would have, or playing the games, like a lot of the soundtrack would be metal songs. It's quite interesting. There's like a lot of different media that people, watch or listen to, and then they get into the music that way. It wasn't like a thing for me personally. Yeah. I did like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, but I don't think that was what got me into it. But it's interesting that it gets a lot of people into the music that way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, video games I think could play a big role. Like not even just Tony Hawk, like Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that. Like not metal. Well, they did have some metal stuff, but just good music in general. Like all the like Vice City, all the '80s stuff. All the new wave stuff they had on there, and the GTA 3 or whatever. I think all that stuff had a lot of good music in general. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes a good game like good. You know, when it has everything in one. You know, good music and obviously the game rules and shit like that. But yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. I want to kind of bring up the new album because I thought it was absolutely fucking amazing. For one. And what I always like appreciate is, I understand that you're also a vocalist as well as the guitarist. How do you always like sort of bounce between the writing of the guitars and the vocals? Like, what comes first for you?
It's always the music, man. Like the vocals always. That's always the last thing I worry about, especially like lyrics and stuff like that. But it's always the music. I'm more of a guitar player than a vocalist. Honestly, still don't even consider myself a vocalist. I feel like I just do it because, well, I mean, to begin with, the reason I started singing, because I was never supposed to sing for this band, but you know, when me and Mike started the band, I think at first we were both supposed to be singing, but I don't know if we tried it out and like we just agreed that I should do it. I can't remember how it happened, but yeah, I just ended up singing because we couldn't find anybody to do it, and it kind of just stuck. You know, I mean, it's not that I don't enjoy I do enjoy doing it, but at times I do wish that, you know, I could just focus on guitar because it's what I do. I mean, I would prefer to be up there fucking focusing on trying to play everything correctly because it's not easy singing and playing at the same time, you know. It's definitely something that I've gotten a lot better on with time, but you know, at first it was very hard, and you know, trying to play the riff exactly how how it's supposed to be played and singing at the same time, you know, it takes a lot of practice or whatever. But
I can imagine.
anyways, back to yeah. But back to your question, it's usually always the music that comes first. Like I always focus on riffs and then, you know, putting a song together. However, you know, when I'm writing the music, I always tend to keep stuff like that in mind. Like, hell, I want this riff for a verse, and then once I have that down, you know, I'll do a bridge thing, or maybe I'll try to. It depends, you know, what I feel would come next. But there's always like that thought in my head, like, okay, this is kind of like where I want to sing, and then I start kind of somewhat getting ideas of somewhat of a pattern, like vocal pattern, and then once the music is all done, then we'll sit down and try to come up with lyrics. And once we write lyrics, then I'll usually try to like figure out patterns to fit the lyrics into the music.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is it like with your vocals? Is there like always a specific subject matter you always lean towards, or is it kind of like whatever sort of fits for you that you kind of pick to write a like song about?
Did you say subject? Sorry, I didn't understand.
Yeah, like is there like
subject?
a specific, certain subject that you always sort of lean towards when you're writing your vocals and stuff?
I mean, I guess death would be one of the main. Like I mean, it depends. Like we whatever we write about, whether it be in like, we tend to write about different things. You know, different albums have different lyrical ideas. We've never done like a concept record where the whole record is based off one single idea. It's always different things, whether it being an idea that comes from a movie, or, you know, from a video game, or a book that we read, or an idea that comes from other music that we've listened to. Like, for example, this one of the songs on the newest record, Congregation of Flesh, that idea came from Devoured by Vermin from Cannibal Corpse. That's kind of like where we got that idea. We've always wanted to write a song about like, you know, rats or fucking vermin just eating you alive. We obviously took that as an influence, and we just made our own story to it, you know, like we changed it around and, you know, made it our own thing. But that's kind of the way it's always worked, whether it being any idea that we take from, like I said, a video game, movie. We just take that and we just try to make it as brutal and as I guess try to just make it our own, you know, try to like make it so it's, you know, so we give it our own twist to it. But yeah, it depends, man. It's always different, you know. To be honest, I'm not the best. I don't consider myself being the best at writing lyrics. I think that's my weak point. I'm much better at just writing music and coming up with riffs and putting songs together. But when it comes to writing lyrics, I think that's probably part of the reason why I leave that towards the end, because I hate doing that shit. And I usually that's where I tend to get a lot of help from the rest of the guys. They, like Mike, for example, helped a lot with the lyrics for this record, and so did Noah. Just because I don't know, I usually have trouble writing lyrics, and it's weird because when we first started the band, I felt like it was a lot easier for me, and I don't know, now it's kind of became harder for me, but yeah, it depends, dude. It's not always about one thing. Just what ideas we might have at the moment, and me or any of the guys in general, if they bring up something like, oh, we should write about this, and it sounds interesting and everybody's into it, then that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are trying to introduce like a new section to the podcast, which we tried before, but want to kind of try it on you as well. So what cocktail do you reckon Skeletal Remains would be if you could choose? Like when I listen to you guys, I think it's a bit like a bullfrog. It keeps you on your toes, with the fast Christian riffs, but then it slows you down like tequila with the crunchy riffs as well. So what would you say? What cocktail would Skeletal Remains be?
Cocktail, like a drink?
Yeah.
Shit, I don't know, man. I've never really thought about. No one's really never asked me anything like that. Me personally, if I drink cocktails, I'm a pretty straight up guy. I'm usually like a whiskey ginger ale type of guy. So, I honestly don't even know cocktails by their name. I know the very like basic, simple like whiskey cola stuff like that, but I wouldn't be able to sit here and name a bunch of different cocktails, because when I do drink liquor, I'm more of a straightforward guy. Just give me either whiskey on the rocks or like whiskey and cola or whiskey and ginger ale. So I don't know. I guess I don't know. I've never really thought about that, but I guess since I'm a fan of whiskey and ginger, I would say that's what it is. I don't fucking know. Yeah,
that's always a good choice. You can't go wrong with a whiskey on the rocks as well. So
yeah. I guess something just to fuck you up, So anything that will fuck you up. Yeah.
One thing I absolutely love about you guys is you're so like crushing, like with the death metal like you go for. It's just so hard hitting. What's like the influences that you sort of brought into Skeletal Remains? Like, what do you all sort of bounce off of each other with? Like, go, oh, I love this sort of album. I really like this riff. I really like that riff. Who influences you most with Skeletal Remains?
Well, I definitely think it's changed with time. When I first started this band, it was obviously most of the death metal classics. Like Cannibal Corpse, Pestilence was a very big one. For me personally, like vocal wise, that was still is one of my biggest influences. But all the classic death metal stuff, Possessed, Death, Gorguts, like I mentioned, Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, a lot of the Florida stuff. Everything that was going on in Florida, like in the late 80s, early 90s, Malevolent Creation, Solstice. And then obviously, some of the stuff from New York, Demolition Hammer being one of the biggest influences when we started this band.
Yeah.
But it's changed with time, and not necessarily that the influences have changed, but just the styles. Every band has, like, for example, Morbid Angel. Each record sounds completely different from each one. That's what I like about Morbid Angel, and I think with time, we've kind of we've tried to do something similar where we don't make each album sound the same, which is not a bad thing. There's bands that have albums that sound, like themselves, like, they all sound similar to each other, but they're fucking killer. But yeah, we try to do something where like each record is a little bit different than the other. And I think that has to do with, just influences changing, like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. The different different bands. Not that it's a different band, but different records influences. I think have influences with time. Like for example, when we were writing the first record, Skeletal Remains record, we were more into the first Morbid Angel record. Altars of Madness or Blessed. Where now, I feel like for the new stuff that we write for Skeletal Remains, we take more influence from the later stuff that Morbid Angel did was, Steve Tucker, like the Steve Tucker era, like Formulas or Gateways to Annihilation, It's just I don't know. I feel like not that I've gotten bored of those first couple of Morbid Angel records. You know, I think they're some of the best records ever written in death metal in general. But I don't know. I feel like maybe it has to do with growing up, or just listening to this style of music for so long. I feel like now I personally prefer, you know, the later stuff of Morbid Angel now compared to, you know, when I first started this band. You know, when I first started this band, I would tell you, you know, oh no, you're crazy. The first Morbid Angel, the second Morbid Angel record are the best thing they've ever done. But now I you know, it's the complete opposite. You know, I think that, you know, the later, obviously not, I'm not talking about the stuff they did. You know, the last record they did was great too, but, you know, obviously the one before that was shit. But you know, the stuff they did. Yeah, but you know, the later stuff they did with Steve Tucker, especially when Eric Rutan was involved. You know, I think that's. It just has. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I'm not really sure how to explain it, but I feel like with time, you know, different albums from different bands have influenced us when it comes to writing, you know, new material. But you know, it's not to say that we don't still take influence from the first, you know, from the stuff that we were listening to when we first started this band. You know, Demolition Hammer, for example, was one of the biggest influences. You know, to this band, and till this day, you know, when we write music, you know, I still take I still take a lot, like, how do I put it? There's still a lot of big influence, you know, till this day when I write, you know, Skeletal Remains stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It depends, man. I mean, as far as like a certain riff, like, it's not really. I can't really like tell you just, oh, this one riff really, like, it just depends. So, you know, what I'm listening on the day. Yeah, exactly. What day and what I'm listening to that day. And, you know, I could be sitting at home, you know, having breakfast. I have my guitar next to the kitchen table. So, like, if I'm having breakfast and I'm done eating breakfast and my kids are still eating, you know, I'll be sitting at the table with them and I'll just grab my guitar and come up with a riff. And that's, you know, it just depends on the, you know, it's not really like, sometimes I'll sit down and like, I'll say, okay, I'm going to take 3 hours today and try to write something. Sometimes I'll sit down for 3 hours and nothing will come out. You know, it's just, I'm not feeling it that day. So it really depends. I don't know. I hope I didn't get away from the question too much.
No, man. Mate, it's been like that was quite interesting, to be fair, because we'd never really had bands like openly talk about like, oh yeah, no, you always get bands that kind of lean to all the older albums as influences, but it's refreshing to sort of get someone to go, oh no, I also like the new stuff that they also release, because you always get people that sort of go, oh yeah, it's always the classics, and the name like Altars of Madness and stuff like that. So it was interesting actually getting a perspective of someone going, no, it's also the new shit. Like, I appreciate the new stuff they're writing.
Yeah, definitely, and it goes the same way with like Cannibal Corpse, for example. You know, that new record they just dropped is fucking awesome.
It's a banger. It's amazing.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, nothing towards against people that, you know, are more like, you know, just like I'm sure with any scene, you know, scene where you're at or here in LA, there's these people that are like, oh no, first record and demos only, you know, like, oh, it's the best thing they ever written. But like, no, have you actually gave it a chance and listened to the stuff they did after the first record, or that they've done, you know, their last record? Like, you know, I just try to stay as open-minded as possible. You know, if it moves me, if it makes me feel fucking like, you know, like listening to like how I felt when I first listened to Morbid Angel, for example, or Deicide, you know, of course I'm going to be into it. But you know, we just try to be a lot more open-minded, and not just old bands in general. Like, there's a lot of new bands that influence us, you know, like Dead Congregation being one of them. I think to me is the best death metal band around this, like, in this day, for when it comes to new, although they're not that new, you know, they've been around for a while, but when it comes to like the whole newer style or the newer bands, you know, the newer wave of death metal, whatever the fuck you want to call it, I think Dead Congregation is definitely my favorite from all of them. But you know, that's, for a perfect example, they play a big role in, as far as influences, you know, especially for the new stuff that we write, you know.
But you find as well, like, you know, especially with the older bands like Morbid Angel, you know, Deicide, as they grow older, they do actually perfect the sound a bit more. So, although there's a lot of classic albums there from the 90s, sometimes when they release an album now, they've had all that time, going through the trials and tribulations, trying to find their perfect sound. And now when they release an album like Cannibal Corpse, that newest album, I'd definitely put that up there with some of the classics because, they know what their sound is, but they know how to make it different every time as well. And it's honestly a killer album. And you do get that from a lot of the older bands. They've had that time to, perfect everything. And it just sounds amazing now.
Yeah, exactly. I agree, man. Totally, 100%. Yeah, and yeah, I can't. I would say the exact same thing. I put that last record, even though, I mean, I've to be honest, there's not one Cannibal Corpse record that I don't like. I liked everything they've done, from the beginning. There's people, there's people just like with Iron Maiden or with Cannibal Corpse, they prefer Paul Di'Anno or they prefer Chris Barnes over George Fisher. It's like, no, I think each one of them has, they're all good for what they are, but yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I agree with you with what you're saying. I think as bands, as bands get older and they grow, they just grow, and they learn how to perfect their their art, I guess.
No, absolutely. And one thing that I do appreciate about you guys as well is you adapted that raw style that, a lot of bands might not have nowadays. You've got that raw aggression. Do you think it's important to keep that in death metal, when you're creating albums?
I would say so. I mean, I guess it depends, man. It all depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, I think for what we're trying to do, I think it fits perfectly. I've never really looked at it like, oh, we got to sound this way. It's kind of just like we write. To be honest, we write whatever we write for ourselves. If we think it's good, then we'll release it. If you don't, whoever listens to it, if you don't like it, don't like it. Don't listen to it. We're not here to tell you to listen to our music. We're just here releasing the music that moves us. So if you're into it, that's fucking awesome. It's an honor it's an honor for us to hear that people are in love with all our music or really support what we're doing, because in the long run we're all just doing this for ourselves. We're not really doing it to satisfy anybody, but as far as like as if I think records should be raw or should be super polished, I think it all just depends on what you're trying to do. We obviously are trying to just write the most memorable and extreme type of death metal as I guess I'm not really sure how to explain it, but just trying to write death metal that's going to be very extreme and very memorable, like a mixture of Morbid Angel and leprosy style, like leprosy death, where you have all these crazy fucking hooks that, will stick to you while still having that extreme edge that, Formula's Fatal to the Flesh has. That's kind of what we're just trying to do.
I wanted to ask, what's like your funniest or worst tour story? Maybe the two are intertwined, but do you have like a defining moment in, Skeletal Remains tour history that you remember being the funniest or the worst?
Shoot. I guess the worst story. I mean, I don't know if it's the worst story, but not this. I can't remember. I think it was our last summer, the last tour, not the last tour we did, because the last tour we did in Europe was that Municipal Waste Toxic Holocaust tour. That was fucking.
That was
awesome. I think that was fucking awesome. But I think it was a tour before that. It was like I think it was like maybe I think we were doing like festivals in the summer with like a bunch of shows in between, but it's not the tour. The show was fucking great. It's just we had a fucking shitty driver that made the tour really fucking like. I was just not really feeling. I mean, the shows were great and everything, but I mean, I don't know if I would call that. I guess the worst story. I mean, there's not. I don't really want to name drop anyone, but we just had a shitty driver, which put us in a shitty situation. But I guess I could say a funny story, and it's probably. I mean, it's not the first time that I said it, but every time somebody asks me about a tour story, this is always the one that comes to mind, just because. I don't know, because it's fucking it's. I mean, at the time it wasn't funny, but now thinking about it, it was fucking. Now it's like funny, but so we played Hellfest in France, I believe. I want to say maybe I don't remember the year. Maybe 2018 or something. I can't remember. 2016 maybe. I'm not sure. But anyways, we played. Yeah, we played Hellfest, and I think this was the first show of the tour, and this was the first tour we've done with we had done with the drummer that was drumming for us at that time, um, and so we were kind of like. I mean, we've known the guy for a while. He was already in the band for a bit, and we've hung out a lot, partied and shit. So we knew he was kind of a bit of like when he partied, he got a little over the top. He got a little too drunk, and he wouldn't know what the fuck he was doing.
Yeah.
He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Anyways, so we played this fucking show. We played Hellfest or whatever, and we had a sick ass show or whatever. After the show, we went back to our green room or backstage or whatever, and I can't remember if it was after we played or before, like when we first arrived, but there was like these Jack Daniel people that would come to each one of the rooms, and I think they would ask to take a picture, and they'd give us like a free Jack Daniels bottle. So I can't remember if it happened after the show or before, but we had a Jack Daniels bottle, and as soon as we got done playing, we started fucking drinking this bottle, and we went to go see Vader. I think they were like I think after we played, I think it might have been Havoc and then Vader. So we went to go see Vader or whatever, and we were having a good time. We were all fucking enjoying ourselves or whatever. And our drummer, as usual, had a little too much to drink, and he's like, "I'm gonna go in the pit." I'm like, "All right, go ahead. I'll be here, man. I know we're not gonna see each other no more because once you go in there, we're not gonna find you." So it's exactly what happened. He went in the pit, and that was the last time we seen him for probably like 14 hours. So we couldn't find, we could not, we were like, it was our driver was like, I think our hotel room or something was maybe about an hour and a half away. So our driver wanted to leave quite early. I mean, not that early. I think maybe he wanted to leave like at 10 p.m. or something so he could have enough sleep to drive, for the drive the next day. So he wanted to leave, and we're like, shit, dude, well, we can't find our drummer, and his phone is off. We can't get a hold of him. So anyways, we're like, you know what, just go ahead, go get some rest, and we'll try to find a way to get to the hotel, maybe in a taxi, or if we're not there in the morning, then come back and pick us up, because that means we didn't make it back. So anyways, we went around, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Hellfest, but it's a huge fucking festival with, I don't know how
it's like a city, isn't it? Like just built in the middle of France,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's like super huge, dude. So we're like, I mean, it felt like we walked miles to get to the front of to the entrance of the festival. It felt, I mean, we were fucking drunk too, so it felt like at least a mile or two. So we were walking around this festival with thousands of people trying to find him, and we can't find him anywhere. And I mean, that was pretty much like we did that for like maybe 2 or 3 hours, and we're like, dude, we cannot find this guy. So I think going to the entrance or going outside was like our last resort. So it must have been after it was definitely after the festival, and everybody was done playing. So it must have been maybe like 1 or 2 in the morning. I can't remember how late it was, but we're like, he's nowhere to be found. So we went all the way to the entrance, and we couldn't see him anywhere. I think we went outside or something, and we saw somebody just like passed out on the floor. Or like, shit, I think that's Joe. So as we got closer, yeah, it was him. So we found him, and then we had to go find a fucking taxi to get back to the hotel. So we found the taxi. The taxi didn't. I can't remember what was the deal. We didn't have any money, so we only had our cards, but he didn't accept. Like, we couldn't pay with a card, so he had to take us to an ATM like 20 minutes away, and then take us to our hotel. So by the time we got home, there was already the sun was out. So we got off the taxi, and by the time we got to the hotel, whatever, we got off the taxi, and we're walking in the gate of the hotel, and I mean, we're all fucking tired. So as we're walking in the gate, we're like, I think the whole time, we were like, the whole time we were on our way back to the hotel, Joe, our drummer Joe, who got lost, he was all drunk and he was just talking shit the whole time, like, "Oh, you fucking left me," and I don't know. I'm like, "Dude, we didn't leave you. We've been trying to look for you for the past couple hours. We didn't fucking leave you. If we would have left you, we would have been out the hotel, and you would have been over there at the festival." So he was just drunk, talking shit, mad or whatever. Usual Joe. And anyways, we noticed as we were walking into the hotel, we didn't hear him. Like, wait, how come Joe's not talking shit anymore? And we look back. As soon as we look back, we see Joe walk into this random van, like a random vehicle van, and the van just takes off. And we're like, what the fuck?
No.
Like, what the fuck just happened? Joe's gone now. So we're like, fuck this shit, dude. We have no idea where he is. We're not gonna find him. He doesn't have his phone. So we go back in the hotel room and we're just like sitting there like, shit, what are we gonna do? Hopefully he sobers up soon and he calls us or he tries to find a way to, to get a hold of us. And I think we must have passed out or whatever. And then like an hour or two later, I wake up to a fucking phone just blowing up. It's just ringing and ringing and ringing. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, dude. My bass player at the time, Adrian, like, dude, your fucking phone's ringing. Answer your phone. It's probably Joe. And I guess it was Vader's drummer was calling us. And he's like, hey, man, we have your drummer got in a taxi with us and he came to the airport with us. And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, he's here. Or I don't know if it was the airport or the train station, but he's like, yeah, your drummer is here at the train station and he's trying to get a hold of you guys. And yeah, we don't know what to do because we got to take I don't know if it was a plane or a train. We got to go back home. So we don't want to just leave him here. So anyways, long story short, yeah, he ended up at the train station or the airport with Vader. And I think we went to pick him up. I don't remember what happened after that, but yeah, I guess that's definitely one of the funniest story. I mean, it wasn't funny at the time, but now thinking back to it, it's definitely one of the more funnier stories. At least the only one that always pops up to my mind when somebody asks about a funny story.
It's almost like when the Vader drummer had to like call you guys to say that they found him. It's like when you find a stray dog, like, hey, I think we found a dog here. Like, it's looking for its owners. It's just like I can't imagine like the scolding that you guys must have given him like when he sobered up. He can't have been happy after that.
Yeah, no, he definitely didn't have I don't think he had a good time for the rest of the tour. I mean, he's one of my good friends to this day, and I love the dude. But that's probably one of the big reasons why he's not in the band anymore. Because it wasn't the first and it wasn't the last time it happened. So there's a lot more
just like, oh,
times.
come on, man.
Yeah, there's a lot more times that it happened again, and yeah. But it was we're fucking kids trying to have fun and do whatever possible to get fucked up. So, I can't blame him. We were just out there having fun. But yeah, that was definitely one of the funnier stories. Sure.
That was a good story.
I could just imagine Vader at the airport or like the train station, just being like, "Fuck, what are we gonna do? Our flight's in like 10 minutes."
Yeah, I can't. Honestly, I can't. I have no idea why they just didn't kick him out of the band. Like who the fuck? Why are you getting a? I don't know. I don't really know. But
it's just accept.
Long story short,
just come on.
Yeah, like come on in. Let's go to the airport. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah, no worries. That's a great story. That's one of the top stories, to be fair, that we've had on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
One thing I want to kind of ask is, one thing that I think America has over the British scene anyway is just the amount of volume of great death metal bands that come out of America. And it's mainly, I've noticed it's always in either Florida or California. What do you think it is about those two states that make death metal so brutal? Like, what do you think it could be? Like, do you think it could be the weather or like?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the same thing. I've thought about, like, especially back in in the 90s or whatever. Like, what? I mean, all the fucking classic bands were coming out of Florida. I mean, sure, you have some here in in LA. So obviously like Sadistic Intent and stuff, but most of the best stuff to this day was coming out of Florida. And I don't know what it was. Maybe the hot weather. I don't know. Maybe just I have no idea, man. But I mean, definitely, I agree. There's definitely a lot of good bands that especially till this day, you know, I mean, when we first started back in 2011, there wasn't really many bands doing what we were trying to do, you know, like the whole old school death metal worship or whatever. That's part of the reason why we started the band. You know, we're like, hey, let's try to, you know, because at first we just started as a cover band. You know, we were just two friends that got together, drank beers, and played, you know, covers together. You know, of the classic records. You know, Considered Dead or Leprosy or Spiritual Healing or whatever, and we got tired of doing covers, so we're just like, hey, why don't we just start writing our own stuff? And that's kind of how we started, because there wasn't many bands doing it. But you know, nowadays there's a new band almost every week. You know, it's crazy. Yeah, you know, you see all these new bands coming out, and there's some really good ones. There's some that are not that good, but there's some that are really good that I really enjoy. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm not really sure what the reason behind that is, but I mean, whatever it is.
It's interesting though, like to see, because I feel like now we're getting a bigger surge of death metal bands as well. Like, you know what's weird as well? Like a lot of death metal bands recently are coming out of Austin, like what I always found crazy, because like Austin was always quite a quiet state, I thought, for when it came to metal. But now like you're getting like just this flood of death metal bands coming from Austin. That's what's crazy.
Right? Yeah. No, I agree, man. Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, just I think Texas in general. I mean, there's a lot. I feel like just death metal in general has been getting a lot bigger these past couple of years, and you know, it seems like a lot of people are really, you know, appreciating it. They really appreciate it, like maybe how it was. I wasn't around in the '90s to know what it was like then, but I feel like it's getting back to, you know, how it used to be. I mean, there's definitely a lot of new bands coming out, and a lot of you know, compared to, like how I said, when we started, there wasn't many death metal bands doing it. I mean, yeah, sure, you had the classics and stuff, but here in LA, I mean, especially where, you know, like shows that we would go to, there wasn't many death metal bands. But now it seems like
now there's just such an influx. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a good time for metal at the moment, I think. Like, a very good time. There's lots of good bands coming out all the time, which is great to see. What would you say is like the most defining moment of the band for you? Like the moment I'd say you're most cherished and you're most proud of since you've been going?
I mean, that's hard to say because there's just been so many. I mean, to me, one of the most important moments for the band was, I think, when we, I guess, kind of saw this as like, okay, because at first when we started, we were just like, just having fun, you know, not that we're not having fun anymore, but back then it wasn't really serious. It was more just like, you know, making music, getting drunk, and, you know, just having a good time. And I think when we did our first European tour, and when we played Partisan festival in Germany, like we played, I think, like at noon or something. We were the first band, and we're like, okay, we're gonna play this festival. There's probably gonna be like 30 people there. There's not gonna be anybody there because everybody's drunk from the night before, and you know, everybody's hungover at least from the night before. I really doubt there's gonna be anybody. So we're just like, whatever. Let's just go up there and, you know, fucking have fun. And we went up there, and the fucking crowd was completely packed. It was fucking so many people. Were like, holy shit. You know, I think when we did that show or that festival, I think that's kind of like when we felt that, like, okay, maybe we can actually do something with this, you know, and maybe if we're actually serious, maybe we can actually get somewhere. And I think I find that's like one of the most memorable moments for me personally. But you know, there's so many, like being able to release a record like the last record. You know, I never thought we would be able to release I mean, to me, that's the best thing we've ever done, and I never thought we'd be able to release a record that's at that level. You know, so there's a lot of different moments, but I think definitely that playing that festival for the first time, first tour we've ever done, you know, and seeing the response from the people, and having Mark Groove from Morgoth come up on stage and sing a song with us, like that was like it was just all around. That was just one of the best moments of my life, you know. So that was really, really killer.
Absolutely. I think it's like, knowing that all your hard work's paid off and you can see the reaction of the people watching you. And yeah, I imagine that's a very good moment for you.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, this was, I think when we did this tour, I think we just had our first record out, and yeah, we just didn't know, we didn't know what we were gonna, we didn't know what we were gonna expect or whatever. We just thought that maybe, people didn't know about us, but it seemed like a lot of people were actually there to see us and knew the band, which was to us very shocking because we were just some kids, and we had just released. I mean, we had released our first record, so we had a record out, but it was our first tour, and yeah, like I said, we just didn't know what to expect, and it completely just blew our mind. So that was really fucking sick.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
I feel like if I was in your boots there, I'd have been like, oh my fucking god, sort of thing. Like, because it's one of those things. Like, I suppose you just never really know what to expect until you're there, and when you see something like that, it must just like make you kind of take a step back and be like, shit.
Exactly. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
definitely, man. I mean, it gives me chills thinking about it, now. So yeah, I definitely say that was one of the most memorable moments for the Skeletal Remains history or whatever.
Definitely.
For sure.
The new album is absolutely fucking insane. Like, it's genuinely amazing. I thought it was such a brutal album.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
Easily, like, probably from my top of like last year that I've listened to. But what would you say is like next? What do you see like as the next point for you guys? Because there was so much that was different in this album. What do you think's the next thing for you to bring to it? Like, okay, the next album we want to kind of go like this. What would you say?
I don't know. We've already started writing new music for the next record, and we've never really sat down and like try to map things out. Like, oh, we want to go in this direction. It's kind of just happened the way it's happened. We're kind of just, the next record is just going to be, I feel like, the next chapter. Like, it's just the next music that came after writing that record. It's not really like, we've always had that thought behind our heads. Like, we obviously want to get better as a band. So that's definitely something we obviously want to release a record that's going to top the last one. That's all I think that's a goal for any band in general, try to make a better record than the last one you did. But as far as like in what direction we're going to take it, it's not really like we haven't really talked about it. We're kind of just writing music and seeing what comes out. I could tell you that it's going to be similar to the last record. I don't think it will be exactly the same, but it's just, I think it will just be, I guess, I'm not really sure how to explain it, but I think it's just going to be the next chapter, I guess you can say it. But going off the stuff we've been writing, it's definitely similar to the last record. A lot of like extreme. I mean, we don't want to take it to the point where it's too brutal, or too extreme. We still want it to be memorable. So it's definitely still going to be in the same style as the last record, but I feel like we might want to. I mean, not that we've really talked about this, but me personally, I would like to bring back a lot of the earlier stuff, like earlier stuff we did a lot more of, like the more simple, catchier riffs, but still keep it extreme and stuff like the last record.
Yeah. Well, if it's anything like the last record, I'm sure it's going to be brutal as hell. So I can't wait to listen to it. So one thing that we like to end on is what advice would you give to your younger self starting out? What advice would you give to someone that wants to start a band, doesn't know what direction to take? What would be the key advice there?
Do it for yourself, man. Don't do it to please anybody. Just write music for yourself. Write music that you like, that moves you, not anybody else. Don't do it to try to please anybody. And have fun doing it. That's the most important thing. If you're not having fun, don't do it. Don't waste your time. Find something that you're gonna have fun doing and you're gonna be happy doing, not something that you're not, that you're gonna regret doing or you're gonna regret wasting your time on. I think that's something that, you know, I think that's one of the most important things when you're not just in music, but in general, you know, job or whatever you're doing. If you're not happy, then don't do it. You know, find something that's going to make you happy and that you enjoy doing. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, besides that, obviously, you know, all the basic stuff, fucking practice, put in the work, do what you have to do to, you know, to get to where you want to be. But I mean, I even tell myself that nowadays, you know, I don't practice as much as I would like to, or as much as I did when I was younger, when I had all the time in the world, when I didn't have to worry about fucking, you know, working or paying bills or doing whatever the fuck you have to do when you're an adult. You know, I obviously had more time in my hands and I was able to practice all the time. And I'm glad that I did do that, because now that I don't
it helps you out in the long run.
Yeah. Now that I don't have the time, you know, it sucks. But, you know, I try my best to you know, to use up the time that I do have the way it should be. But yeah, I mean, I guess that would be it. I mean, you know, fucking put in the work, man. That's all it really takes, you know. And like I said, it's not in music in general. If you want to be, I don't know, anything else, you fucking, I don't know, fucking, if you want to be a graffiti artist or just, you know, draw fucking artworks for bands or whatever you want to do, just put in the time, put in the practice, and have fun doing it. If you're not having fun, don't fucking do it. It's that easy.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, man. Like it really is. We really appreciate you coming on. Like, we've genuinely really enjoyed the interview. It feels like great, like having someone on, because I think for me and Brad, Skeletal Remains have been like probably one of our top bands to listen to. Like, we've been massive fans of death metal for years, and you guys really capture that sort of like brutal all-round sound that everyone really wants to look for in death metal. So having you on has been really fucking great, like, for us. Like,
cool, man.
And you guys,
thanks, man.
You guys put on a killer performance when you played with Municipal Waste when you came to Leeds. That was a great show. So I hope you guys will come again.
I see you're wearing that. Is that the sweater from Boom Leeds in Leeds, right?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that was a killer tour, man. Yeah, we had a lot of fun on that tour. That I just can't wait to get. That was the last tour we did, so I just cannot wait to get back out there and start doing shows again and play the new music for everybody, because we haven't had a chance. You know, we released this record during the pandemic and we haven't had a chance to play any of this new stuff. But you know, that's what I'm mostly looking forward to. And yeah, man, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys taking the time, and hopefully we'll see each other, you know, in the future, and we'll have some drinks or something together.
If you're ever in Leeds, hit us up and we'll go for some beers and that.
Yeah,
sounds good, man.
Just
definitely.
Try not to lose any members this time.
Yeah, no, I think we're pretty good right now with the members. I mean, everyone seems to be on top of their shit. Like, you know, like I said, when that whole situation with Joe is, you know, I can't blame him, man. You know, it was his first time in Europe. He wanted to have fun, you know, and I'm glad he did. But we were just mostly worried. We're just mostly worried about him fucking being, you know, dead somewhere in a ditch or fucking, you know, fucking. I don't know. We were just worried that, you know, that if he was okay. But you know, we found him. Everything was okay. But yeah, man, definitely. I hope that doesn't happen again. It's definitely sucked dealing with that shit. But yeah, man. Hopefully we'll be back in Leeds. You know, maybe next year. I think there was plans of us doing some stuff with some shows there in the UK in general. So yeah, hopefully it works out. I think I've been talking to the dudes from Cryptic Shift, so maybe we'll do some stuff together with them. I don't know, but hopefully we'll be back towards that way next year or something.
Yeah, that'd be sick, man.
Yeah,
cool,
absolutely.
Man.
We'll be there.
Yeah. Cool, man. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Abomination,